I think it's my turn to go first because you two have been like beer moths or moths, really. You just kept going and going through the night.
Are you calling me a behemoth?
Well, you and Chris, you've just done a sterling hours and hours.
Thank you.
Well, I'm all for the Paddy one-man show. Take it away.
No, I mean, you've done hours and hours of broadcasting, Chris.
Well, there is that. But, this is the kind of time of year where Laura and I and others, just try and keep on going, really, because there's so much to talk about, isn't there? There's so much intrigue, there's so much... and particularly with this set of elections, there's just so many different storylines, aren't there?
There certainly are. And it's election time, and that means that we stay up for a long time.
Laura gets very excited by her flipper.
I had 4 flippers this year.
Do you have a cheap... Well, Laura, you can explain your flipper.
They're my photo albums that are full of all my alphabetised fun facts about all the different council seats or constituencies if it's a general election flipper.
It's like a file of facts.
They're old photo albums, and you have to get them on a website that sells old things because you can't get them in the shops anymore.
And then you can flick between them without having paper scattered all over the desk, and then you've lost the one from Tameside or whatever.
Exactly.
Right.
I love the fact that our youngest newscaster does not know what A, a file of facts is, and B, a photo album.
Shall we get on with it?
This is Saturday's Newscast.
Hello, it's Laura in the studio.
Hello, it's Paddy in the studio.
And it is Chris at Westminster. Glad to be back at the weekend gang after our Cast Fest of a couple of weeks ago. And here I am on a Saturday again. It's a joy.
Very nice to have you with us. We are recording at 2:06 on Saturday. So just a timestamp, because it may be by the time this is in your luggles, more things will have happened, because a lot of things have happened. And even some more election results have come in since the last newscast of the 1,000 newscasts that there have been during this election cycle. Highlands and Islands result was called at 1:21 in the morning. Reform and the Greens in Scotland both won 2 seats. And the SNP, the Tories and the Scottish Lib Dems all picked up 1 seat. And also, Chris, in the last few hours, I mean, there's just a kind of little ticker tape, isn't there, going with Labour MPs one by one.
Yeah.
All miraculously using the same sort of formulation, not saying that Keir Starmer should go away right away, but saying that he must set out a timetable for his departure.
Yeah. I love the idea, by the way, of a declaration at 1 a.m. for something that wasn't an overnight count. That was like to count during the day, and yet it ends up ending at kind of the time you might expect a result when, you'd started counting just after the polls had closed at 10. But yeah, I think the ticker is a good way of describing it, Laura. So towards the tail end of yesterday afternoon and into the evening, there was a kind of trickle of Labour MPs, some of whom who had been public in the past about concerns about Keir Starmer, others who hadn't, who were saying, as you say, broadly similar arguments around their desire for the Prime Minister to set out some sort of timetable for his departure. Most of them were not saying words to the effect of he should sort of pack his suitcase this weekend, but suggesting that he shouldn't be around for all that long. And then this morning, Saturday morning, on the Today programme, hearing from Debbie Abrahams and also from Clive Betts. Clive Betts, long-standing Labour MP, been in Parliament since the 1990s. And in particular, I thought what was striking, and I've heard this so many times from Labour MPs privately, and they don't say it with any sense of kind of enthusiasm or venom towards the Prime Minister personally, but they just recount over and over again stories of being on the doorstep, and when they ask people who have voted Labour recently why they wouldn't have done this week, or they weren't willing to do this week, so often they say it was Keir Starmer's name that was coming back to them. That sense that he was a drag anchor, if you like, or hauling the party backwards rather than anything positive.
And you've been speaking to the Prime Minister. Yeah,
so he did a thing this morning. It's interesting, yesterday they were suggesting that he wasn't going to be around and about today, which I didn't really believe at the time. And sure enough, here he was. And you can see from his perspective why they wanted to have him out and about, because otherwise there'd be something of a vacuum. He was in Wimbledon, so we were at the home of AFC Wimbledon, quite a fine little sports ground, AFC Wimbledon, and not an accident that he was there. Wimbledon is in Merton, the borough of Merton in southwest London, which was a rare bright spot for Labour. They actually went forwards. They gained a seat in Merton. So he was meeting Labour activists, working the tables, usual format that he does. He likes going to smaller football clubs as well. That's one of his things. Has a cup of tea at each table, does the selfies, all that kind of stuff. And then did what's known as a pool interview, where one broadcaster on behalf of all of the broadcasters asks 4 or 5 questions. It's not a long interview. And I think, can we play a little bit of what he was saying?
Look, it's very important that we don't, I'm not going to walk away from this. That would plunge the country into chaos. But that doesn't mean we don't need to respond. It doesn't mean we don't need to rebuild. It doesn't mean that we don't need to set out the path ahead. That's what I'm going to do in coming days. The things that we will do to take the country forward. Of course, we face difficult circumstances. We've got a war on 2 fronts. We've had a series of economic crises. But my job is to combine rising to those challenges with the hope and opportunity that gives people that real sense that things can get better.
The thing is, the problem they've got lots of problems, but I think lots of newscasters will just think, Chris, we've just heard that all before.
Yeah.
You know, Keir Starmer says we have to go further and faster. We have to accelerate the change. We have to give people more hope. Those are all undefinable things, right?
Yeah.
They're all political speak. Put them all together in any order, and it's a sort of word salad that sort of says, well, yeah, I know things haven't been great, and I promise I'm going to try harder.
And not only that, Laura, it's certainly from what I'm hearing from Labour MPs, it's just a frustration that even the language is the same.
It's the same. It's exactly the same.
So
yeah.
not only is there the critique of what does it actually add up to, and therefore what difference could it conceivably make, but it is exactly the same. So his language about, we didn't hear it there, but earlier on he talked about, in his opening answer, because this is the first time he'd been in front of the camera since the full scale of the results were out there. Yes, he did do an equivalent clip early yesterday morning, but we were still early on, weren't we? It was before Scotland, it was before Wales, etc., even if the kind of trend was there to be seen. It was exactly the same form of words as he'd used 24 hours previously, so there wasn't even any kind of sense of using different language, given the volume of what had come in the 24 hours since. He's now talking up a speech he's going to give on Monday. It's been pretty widely trailed, quite a bit of that, this idea. In fact, he said it in that interview he did with Nick Robinson on the Today programme this time last week about wanting a closer relationship with the European Union. There's a limit to how far that can go within the red lines that they've set in their manifesto. And they're sort of building that up, really, to being quite a thing, and from their perspective you therefore wonder how then that goes down with Labour MPs and what follows afterwards.
Well, and also why Number 10 would think at this stage in the game, arguing for closer alignment with the EU, which newscasters might remember he also did right at the beginning this year in our very long interview with him in the first week of January.
Yeah.
Why is that remotely the answer to a almost uniform rejection of the Labour Party in former Brexit voting areas? Why is that the answer? And I think we're in a situation now where the pressure is very, very, very much on Keir Starmer as an individual to show that he can improve his performance and to show that he can do better. And one senior minister said to me in the last couple of days, they said, over to you, Keir, is what they said. That's the sense that I'm picking up, is not people in their hordes trying to push him for the exit. But it's like, right, you have a chance here, but we need to see and hear that you can do things differently. That's what union leaders are saying. They've demanded a meeting with him this week. They put out a very strongly worded statement.
Yeah.
Some of them want to definitely see him go. Some of them want to give him one more chance. And I think that's kind of where we're at. And the pressure is intensely on him. And we thought this might be where we were at last weekend. And I've still sort of got those two questions in my head, that where is the evidence that Keir Starmer actually can do things differently and improve his performance? Now, one cabinet minister said, look, actually, he's the most adaptable person and he's an extraordinary survivor. You know, he's incredibly resilient. He knows he's really in the doo-doo.
Worked for Jeremy Corbyn, then sacked him.
Right, worked for Jeremy Corbyn, then sacked him. Worked with Morgan McSweeney, then sacked him. Worked with Sue Gray, then sacked her. All of those things. But whether the Prime Minister is capable of really upping his own game, right? Where's the evidence of that? I don't know. He's done lots of things like sacking people, but actually where's the evidence that he can really change his government's performance?
As a couple of MPs have said to me this morning and in the last 24 hours last night as well, from their perspective, their fear is that these interventions make things worse, not better, because they see there was a lot of grumbling about the article in his name in The Guardian this morning. Let's see how what he was saying to me in that pool exchange goes down, because certainly the perspective from some after what he said yesterday morning was that it was doubling down in the minds of some Labour MPs their fears about a lack of capacity to change in the way that they would like, rather than it being this new incarnation.
You can become Prime Minister in the United Kingdom without a general election, and one man who did that was Gordon Brown, and it's quite common for this to happen. John Major did it as well, and Gordon Brown went to see Keir Starmer today through the front door of Number 10.
I nearly fell off my chair. So if you want as a government to look like you are surging forward, promising change, you're going to be different, you're addressing the future, you're cracking on, bringing back someone who was in power 16 years ago and who lost an election, I don't really see what the question is that Gordon Brown is the answer to. Now, if you were saying, there is a massive global financial crisis and we are on the hunt specifically for someone to come and help us deal with that, then Gordon Brown may well be someone who is in your Rolodex. He's obviously, or younger newscasters might not know what that is either, somewhere where people used to write down lots of phone numbers and contacts. Gordon Brown is a highly respected figure in the Labour Party, right? No question about that. I'm not doing down Gordon Brown in any way. But the optics of a Prime Minister is in deep trouble. Bringing back a Prime Minister who never won a general election, actually then lost another general election, and kind of boasting about it. And this is basically the first image that the country sees the day after a complete shellacking is Keir Starmer on the steps of Downing Street with Gordon Brown. Like, where's that going to go?
It's extraordinary, isn't it? Because, as you're right to detach these things, aren't you, Laura, for newscasters? In that, of course, you can make an argument that two people like Harriet Harman, who's also been offered an envoy role, and Gordon Brown,
which she was offered last year too.
Indeed so, might have something to offer within those areas of expertise.
Correct.
But to then decide that you're going to make that the moment on camera, because the Prime Minister doesn't appear on the steps of Downing Street shaking someone's hand by accident. That is a conscious communications choice, and doing that twice within an hour on Saturday morning with Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman, and then there's an associated video that Downing Street has posted of them wandering around in the Downing Street garden with Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, in the mix.
It looks like she's marrying them.
It does, doesn't it? One of the stills. They do look like a couple, don't they? Gordon Brown and Keir Starmer.
No, but isn't that the danger, right? Because people will. I mean, look, I would have thought that within minutes, people online, and certainly opposition politicians, have got an absolute gift to say, look, well, here's Keir Starmer, who many people would say, whether in sorrow or anger, is a failing Prime Minister, standing on Downing Street steps with someone who is a failed Labour Prime Minister, although very well respected for other reasons in his handling of the global financial crisis. Can I just read you, though, my favourite quote of the day? Because as we know, I spend lots of time on Fridays and Saturdays getting quotes from people. This is about the appearance of Gordon Brown. Rumour is they've brought a Ouija board through the green baize door to consult Clem and Harold, referring to Clement Attlee and Harold Wilson.
Because here's another, I'll give you a sliding doors moment where I've been in charge and I've picked someone else.
I'd vote for you.
Right, no, not as Prime Minister. I've been in charge of today's choreography for the Prime Minister.
Okay.
I put another guest on the steps of Number 10.
Who?
Andy Burnham.
Well, there you are. So Andy Burnham has not made himself available for interviews all weekend.
But I put it out there because it's peacemaking, it's leadership, lead, follow, or get out of the way. It's saying, I know I've got to meet this man sometime. So I'm going to meet him the day after when there's lots of calls, and that would answer the timetable question. It would show leadership. And why aren't I running Number 10 is my question for you.
I wish you were. I would vote for you, Paddy.
Thank you.
What would your party be called?
the Wombles.
You've got my vote.
Go
Well,
on,
then you could go to Wimbledon like the Prime Minister did, and there we are. The whole thing is complete. I've completely forgotten what I was going to say now. What was I going to say? I can't remember. I was too busy with the Wombles of
the Wombles of Wimbledon. But Paddy, you make a good point by bringing Andy Burnham in, because this, frankly,
that's what I was going to mention. Yeah, sorry,
is the thing that is keeping Keir Starmer there for now.
Yes.
Is that just as there is not necessarily evidence from the track record that Keir Starmer is capable of enormous changing himself, there is still no evidence that any other candidate or contender for the job is ready to go. Andy Burnham is not an MP. There are also plenty of people who say that he should not take for granted the idea that people would greet him as a northern messiah. And, oh, by the way, look what happened to the votes for the Labour Party in the northwest of England yesterday. They got absolutely pasted. So just as the question is for Keir Starmer, is Andy Burnham the answer? Don't know. Now, my sense is, though, that a lot of the people involved in putting forward this sort of timetable notion are trying, as it was described to me yesterday by a senior figure, to basically give time for Burnham to get a seat back in Parliament. But imagine how much money Reform would throw at trying to beat Andy Burnham in any by-election. So that's that. So there's that. So they're not ready. Angela Rayner, I understand, is going to make some form of statement, possibly in the next couple of hours. When I say we're recording at 2:20, she's not going to call for him to go this weekend unless something really unexpected happens. She's not going to call for a timetable. She's not going to call for a contest. What I expect is that she'll say something about the sort of direction of the party. But this weekend is not then turning into a maximum moment of jeopardy for the Prime Minister, because none of the contenders who want the job have said, out the way, I'm on.
I think that's right. So Andy Burnham was doing a charity football match last night in which it was let be known that he'd scored 2 goals.
Yeah, and the video's out there now. So you've got Gordon Brown with Keir Starmer and Andy Burnham scoring goals.
There's some suggestions as I walked into the newscast studio that one of them might have been offside, but I haven't yet seen the video.
Hang on. Are we now going to explain the offside rule? Because it's got everything. It's got Filofax, Rolodex, photo albums, and the offside rule on one Saturday. I mean, that needs its own podcast.
It's something to do with when someone's running forwards, I think.
Okay, yes, good. So, look, people have used these local elections, which are about homelessness, my bins, my health service, my education of my children. They've used this as a national poll. It's not really fair on councillors who are doing their job, is it?
Well, no. I mean, these elections are about lots of different things, and they're about people who make decisions that influence our lives that have got almost nothing to do with number 10. You know, in terms of your bins and local services. But like it or not, that's what this became in large part. Not least, and it will have been helped in this by the fact that Reform, who ran a campaign very hard, Nigel Farage went to so many different places around the country. I mean, he basically went back on the road to do that sort of celebrity tour that he does every now and again. That's what he's been doing for the last few weeks. And the Reform slogan was "Vote Reform, Get Starmer Out." And there was a reason for that. And that was both a reflection of public sentiment, but also something that tried to push on public sentiment. And the Reform success in these elections has just been absolutely extraordinary. Now, their overall vote share compared to last year actually went down a bit. The success in terms of the number of seats and the gains that they were making. They made huge progress from nowhere in Wales. They made huge progress from nowhere in Scotland. And it's been an incredible political achievement from them. There's absolutely no doubt about that. So this is partly about Starmer and Labour, but it is also about the success of the other parties, Reform and the Greens, really making the most of this political moment.
Completely. It's worth reflecting, isn't it, from the Prime Minister's perspective? Because it's not that long ago that we were chasing around the country after him and his rivals in the general election campaign. You know, there are vanishingly few Labour leaders who have won a majority at a general election, and he is one of them. In clearing a hurdle, so few of his predecessors as a Labour leader have managed over the sweep of a century and a bit. And yet the speed with which things have unravelled and the degree to which it is so pointed in his direction personally. I fall over the number of MPs, Labour MPs and others, others who are, not of his political affiliation, who are sometimes bemused about the extent to which it feels so visceral visceral and so personal, with a character like Keir Starmer, who you might conclude wouldn't necessarily provoke such a strength of feeling, but the underlying issue around so many of these conversations is the reality of that being a broad-based sentiment for so many at the moment.
When do we get? We're going to the end of. We've got some newscasters' comments. Mm-hmm. When do we get a sign that a significant intervention's happened? Is it a speech? Is it a tweet or an X posting
from him or from his
rivals?
From his rivals. I think we will. And I'm expecting that we'll hear from Angela Rayner this afternoon at some point, although I don't think she's going to push for a contest. I think Andy Burnham is due to speak at some event later this week. Mm-hmm. But the Prime Minister also has two big moments to try and stamp his authority this week too. There's this big speech. And then on Wednesday, of course, is the King's speech, when the government has got a chance to put forward all the ideas and draft laws, things that they would like to achieve in Parliament. And that's a huge opportunity to give Labour MPs things to be excited about, to give Labour MPs something to rally round, because goodness knows that they need it. And it's one of these kind of enormous, big, fancy state occasions, and there'll be golden carriages and, gleaming horses and all of that. It's also a big risk, though, because if the King's speech comes out and Labour MPs look at it and they think, oh, most of those things were, well, there's a bit wishy-washy, not really much in that, then that might make them feel even more demoralised. But it's hard to, it's at this point, it's hard to know where it's going to go. But the unions have also demanded a meeting with Keir Starmer this week. And, the unions aren't all powerful in the way that they were in the 70s, but they still pay the Labour Party's bills, right?
We've got to let Chris Mason go.
Yes.
Do you have another point to make, Chris, before we lose you, so we don't?
No, I think I've petered out. No, I've enjoyed being part of the weekend gang again, and with the news at the volume that it is at the moment, who knows? This might become more frequent. Let's see.
I hope so. I hope we have as much of you as possible. Thank you very much. We'll let you go on.
Thanks, Chris.
Cheers. See ya.
He's off making television now for the 10 o'clock news.
Oh, we love making television.
We're not in this shirt. You look like you're in your pyjamas, and I look like I'm in my dressing gown.
Are you in velour?
Yes. Now, Stephen emails.
I've never seen you in velour before.
I love the pod, says Stephen. I have a question about the King's speech. If after the King's speech there's a challenge to Sir Kay as PM and he's ousted, would the new PM be obligated to follow the plans laid out in the King's speech, or could they change it?
It's a great question. I do not know technically if there is an answer to that, but I think in reality, even if there is a formal answer, of course they can change it, because governments can always change what they're doing anyway. So the King's speech is a sort of, this is what we are planning. But how often do governments actually chop and change or ditch or transform the things that they've said they're going to do anyway? Answer, all the time. So it's not a tablet of stone, even though it is read out with great fanfare.
So that's your answer. Yes, they can change it.
Mm-hmm.
Lib Dem activist Mark writes, I'm a regular listener since Brexit Cast. I am appalled that in your Election Cast episode yesterday evening, there was absolutely no mention of the successes of the Liberal Democrats beyond our name being mentioned in an introductory sentence. All the other major parties, including the nationalist parties in the devolved assemblies, were analysed in detail. The Lib Dems have made steady progress over a record number of election cycles in increasing our number of elected councillors, and this week took control of some key councils. I trust you will address this in future episodes. Many thanks in advance.
Well, we're very pleased to, and I'm wondering if there's a very prominent Lib Dem activist called Mark, surname that I shall keep mysteriously. I wonder if it's him, and if it is, hello to you. But yeah, very happy to talk about the Liberal Democrats. I mean, 8
years of gains, I think, at local elections.
Absolutely. And they're a really big force in local government, and they did take some steps forward, and they had a decent night. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? That they have, the Lib Dems, they're playing a different game, right? They're not trying to win seats absolutely everywhere. They're much more focused on kind of hyper-local building blocks gradually. So looking at an area, trying to grow their number of councils, trying to then get an MP there. And they did have successes. They won Stockport, they won Portsmouth.
Because, of course, the media loves bright, shiny things.
Well, also, I suppose the media always, by its very nature, the news is about things that are unusual and new. So, of course, Reform success is unusual and very significant. The Greens' recent surge is new and significant. the Lib Dems, yes, did have advances, and absolutely we should talk about them and cover them. But that, you know, news, as you say, it is the things when things change or they suddenly happen unexpectedly, that those do tend to be the things that dominate the headlines. But yeah, the Liberal Democrats do well in local government. They had a decent time this week, and they are, you know, on the march.
Anyway, look, I think the criticism has been levied by our listener, and I've learnt you don't tell listeners they didn't hear the thing they didn't hear.
Absolutely.
So you take criticism, and you say, I've accepted it.
Yeah, but it's as an addendum. Is that the singular or is that addenda?
Addendum would be more than one thing. You would
addenda. It is. There is a real challenge actually when you are like making TV and radio, when you've got 6, 7 parties, 8 political parties, however many political parties.
I think that's a serious point.
It's a serious point. I mean, it genuinely.
We've gone into this world, and you could become the government of the UK on 25% of the vote if you got the right seats.
Yes.
So let's return to this subject. Now, look, we've got to apparently play some amazing audio between Victoria Atkins, Robert Jenrick with Sophie Rayworth. Do you know anything about this?
I do.
Can you tee it up?
I can. So during the long hours of election broadcasting, Victoria Atkins, who is a member of the Shadow Cabinet, who once upon a time backed Robert Jenrick for the Conservative leadership, was sitting alongside said Robert Jenrick, and she revealed to the nation, which was an interesting decision to do so, that the two of them had not spoken since Jenrick defected to Reform. And she talked about how incredibly upset she had been by this decision and tried to provoke him into confronting what many Conservatives believe was his bad behaviour.
Rob has not spoken to me since he left the Conservative Party in the way that he did, and I considered us to be very good friends. And so it has been a great personal loss for me as well as a professional one. And the reason I raise this is because I think Rob is describing, you know, he's the economic spokesman for Reform. And I think how one conducts oneself is important. And I think that this is a message that will continue until the general election, that if people are asking the voters for trust, then that has to be genuine. And we as Conservatives are trying to trust, you know, we're trying to rebuild that trust. We are acknowledging that mistakes were made.
What would you say to that?
The way you have trust in politics is to do what you say you're going to do. And the Conservative Party is not trusted because it didn't do what it said it was going to do. It was elected in 2019 on a manifesto.
I'm talking about the personal point.
But this is the point here.
Can we just start there?
The question at the end of the day in politics.
It's actually a very personal point.
The question is about honesty and trustworthiness. And the point is this: Reform can be trusted to do what it says it's going to do. Unfortunately, it gives me no pleasure to say this, the Conservative Party broke the most fundamental trust with the British public because it said it was going to secure our borders. It did the opposite. It was open season. It said it would secure our economy, and I brought it down and then resigned because I was so appalled by what I'd seen and the refusal of the then Prime Minister to do what was necessary. So the point is, Reform is succeeding because the public want change.
You really could cut the atmosphere with a knife. What was then scurrilously suggested to me afterwards is that actually Victoria Atkins' suggestion that they had been very good friends would not necessarily have been a universal view in the Conservative Party. So as an effective politician, sometimes people try to create a bit of drama to make a political point.
It's another of these amazing moments of this news cycle that's scampering by so quickly. So we say we're at the end. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.